It's wonderful to be here, and especially to see so many of you in this beautiful Atlanta weather, so I appreciate your coming out. What I normally do is talk about hip-hop, because hip-hop contains amazing, intelligent, beautiful, they call it the beautiful struggle, but beautiful views about a justice system that will work well. And that's surprising. We don't expect to hear that vision from hip-hop, but one of the things I do in this multimedia thing is to show how articulate hip-hop is about ways to improve our justice system. And when I do that talk, I don't sound a lot like a prosecutor, which is what I used to be. So people ask, well, what happened? And it wasn't one thing in particular, but there were some things, and one kind of big thing happened. So that's what I want to talk just for a few minutes about tonight. So I'm going to read just a short excerpt from the first chapter that talks about some of my experiences and how I became what I now think of as a recovering prosecutor. So this is from chapter 1, which is called "The Hunter Gets Captured by the Game. An American Prosecutor Meets Criminal Justice." I am prosecuting a prostitute. She barely speaks English. We're in a room more like a cell than a courtroom. It's a corridor of the District of Columbia Superior Court devoted to non-jury. That's the venue for minor crimes. When lawmakers don't want people to have jury trials for certain offenses, they make the sentence for the crime less than 6 months in jail, because then you're not entitled to a jury trial. Judges, you see, are more likely to convict than juries. In this hallway, justice is processed with extreme efficiency. A good judge and prosecutor working as a team can get through 4 or 5 trials a day. Crowded inside the little room are the prostitute, a court-appointed defense attorney, a police officer, the judge, me, and my mother. It's my mom's first time seeing me in trial, and I want to impress her. The facts of solicitation for prostitution cases are always the same. Plainclothes male officer encounters prostitute. She offers sexual favor in exchange for cash, and he arrests her. These aren't your high-class call girls, but rather streetwalkers, the old-fashioned skanky kind, complete with pimp, drug habit, and tragic backstory. It's actually difficult to get arrested for prostitution in the District of Columbia, where it's a crime but not a big police priority. Everybody, sex workers, customers, and cops, knows what's where. 14th Street is biological women, 9th Street is transvestites, 5th Street, not far from the courthouse, is male hustlers. On Friday and Saturday nights, there are so many Johns and other gawkers that they create a minor traffic jam. Generally, nobody cares. It's a business district anyway. At night, the lawyers and lobbyists are home in the suburbs. So now it's the streets rather than the offices that are devoted to service for hire. And sure, the police department has a vice squad, but how much can it do, really? The relationship between beat cops and habitual criminals is polite, semi-respectful. Each understands that the other has a job to do. Sometimes, however, citizens complain, especially when they see the cops and the girls yucking it up. Then there's a showy crackdown for a few days. It's just an annoyance to the principals. The world's oldest profession is certainly not surrendering. If anything, it will just temporarily switch corners. Police sweeps don't eradicate crimes like prostitute and drug selling. They just make those activities less orderly. Most of the girls know who the undercover cops are, but my defendant has broken 2 rules. The police report says that she approached the plainclothes officer and offered to perform oral sex. She probably didn't use those words, for $25. Rule number 1, always recognize the UCs, undercover cops. Second, she has the temerity to actually go to trial. And rule number 2 is plead your case. Throw yourself on the mercy of the judge. Unless you have an exceptionally long string of convictions, you most likely will get sentenced to probation and a drug treatment program, and you could be back on the street the same day. You plead because there is basically no defense in these cases other than general denial. And who is a judge going to believe? An officer of the Metropolitan Police Department or a Vietnamese girl who happened to be on 14th Street at 2 a.m. in the morning in a hot pants, a bikini top, and stilettos, please. And my mother is watching me. I cannot wait for my cross-examination. I am going to let this whore have it. I'm now prosecuting a United States senator. After practicing on the District of Columbia's hookers, addicts, and assorted street thugs, I've graduated to the Department of Justice's Public Integrity Section. 3 years into it, I'm assigned the biggest case of my career. Senator David Durenberger, Republican of Minnesota, has rigged an illegal scheme to get the government to pay its mortgage. By the time the FBI catches him, he's defrauded the taxpayers out of a few $1,000s. After 3 years of prosecuting public corruption cases, I'm not surprised that some big-time politicians are sleazes. The startling thing is how low their price is. We've charged the senator with multiple felonies. It's one of the most important cases in the Justice Department. As a young lawyer, I'm lucky to be on the case. I'm sure it didn't hurt that I'm black. We indicted Durenberger in the District of Columbia, where the jurors are mainly African American. I'm only the second chair. The senior lawyer, a white guy, is just a few years older than I am, but he has a lot more experience. As long as I get to do a nice opening or closing statement and a couple of juicy cross-examinations, I'll be a happy camper. This is the kind of high-profile case that can make a lawyer's career. Life, for this young prosecutor, is sweet. Shortly before the Durenberger case is supposed to go to trial, I get arrested. Simple assault is the crime I'm accused of committing. There's nothing simple about simple assault. That was the joke made a few years before my arrest as I was trained how to prosecute that crime by the misdemeanor section chief, who later directed my own prosecution. What I didn't know then, what a man who makes his living putting people in prison cannot afford to believe, is that there's nothing simple about any accusation of crime. I had to learn that the hard way. Criminal justice is what happens after a complicated series of events has gone wrong. It's the end result of failure, the failure of a group of people that includes, but is never limited to, the accused person. So what I'm not saying is that prison should be abolished, that people should not be held accountable for their actions. I don't believe that. I've locked up thugs who I hope never see the light of day. I will never deny that society needs an official way to punish the bad guys. Otherwise, if somebody did the unthinkable, say, killed my loved one, I would kill him myself. The criminal justice system gives the state a monopoly in exercising that kind of retribution. It's legal hate. The problem with hate is it's hard to contain. In the United States, the rush to punish is out of control. So in addition to the violent creeps I put away, I sent hundreds of other people to prison who should not be there. Their incarceration only makes things worse for them and especially for us on the outside. We would all be better off if I had lost those cases. We'd be safer and more free. But I was too good a prosecutor to lose much. And then I got locked up myself. So all I'm saying is that this shit's complex.